They put baskets on their head and they're able to balance it very well. So that would be kedaka, that would be its normal way of carrying. But over here, I don't think if anyone would go around with this saker, they'll put it, balance it on their head. Everyone would say that is not the usual normal way. So that would be still, doing that would be rabbinic. It's still forbidden. So we can't go out on Shabbos and say we went to the class, that it's not a Torah prohibition, but it's still transferring something from private domain into public domain, something from an enclosed area to an outside, or carrying outside 4 cubits. All of this would be considered carrying, but it would not be the normal weight. So we gave an example last week that sometimes we do, if we have a choice, we would do it a rabbinic way when it is an emergency. So I gave the example of someone who has to go to the hospital. So if someone who's going to give birth, she knows beforehand that she's going to be going, so she fills out all the papers beforehand. She's going to have a baby. The hospital, she doesn't know if it's going to be on Shabbos or not. So then she would make all the preparations beforehand, sign all the papers, and then have to sign on Shabbos. Now, what happens if it is such a situation where you did not make the preparations? So then there are a few issues to get for. You have to get to the hospital, so you would have to get transportation. So then you have to pay for it. You have to carry the money. So, but carrying money is muktzah. It is it's a rabbinic prohibition of not handling anything that is not for Shabbos. It would include money. So money could not be handled on Shabbos. But in this case, the Rabbanan would take away their prohibition because it is for this emergency. So they let you now carry the money. Now you have a choice of now you're carrying the money in order to pay the driver. I'm speaking in case where you're paying him with money. So in that case, we now have to carry it. So we would carry it in an unusual way. The example that is given in the Talmud is putting it in your shoe. That's not the normal way how we carry money. So carrying money in the shoe, there would be another way of being able to carry, but not the usual way, where it is the same thing as also when it comes to signing. So if we sign, whatever hand one is usually signing, unless they're ambidextrous, they can do it with both hands, but usually there's one hand that is the one that you write with. So in this case, you would sign with the other hand because that would be not the normal way. Or we said the person does the complete act themselves. If 2 people do it together, then that would be not the usual way. So then 2 people could hold the pen and sign together. That would be another option where we're trying to use it where it's not permanent. Another thing would be also it has to be something that is permanent. Back again to the hospital, I don't know what they do now, but at one point in the Frum hospitals, there is writing would be making 2 letters, would be if it is on something that is lasting, and also with instrument that is lasting. So you would have in the hospital, you have those that there's a plastic sheet on a board to write out the prescription or whatever else the doctor is doing. And then what you do is you lift it up and everything disappears. So whatever you wrote is not lasting. It would be a temporary writing. In that case, that's what those who are in a Frum hospital and they have to do the writing because of again, we're speaking about a special occasion where there are people who are sick and they need this prescription. So in that case, you would rely on the rabbinic writing where it's not lasting, but that would be used in such situations. So they would, when we speak about the Frum hospitals, they would try to use those methods that would not be a Torah prohibition if possible, and rather make it into a rabbinic prohibition because the Rabbanan suspended their prohibition when it comes to someone who is sick. So when they set up to begin with the rules, they said the rules are as follows, the rabbinic rules are as follows, unless there are certain circumstances, rabbinic rules are suspended. So it's not that each person is deciding what should or should not be done, but rather to begin with, they set up the rules. This is speaking back to the Sanhedrin. This goes back to the times of the Beis Hamikdash. They're the Sanhedrin, that the Supreme Court, that set up the rules. And we had the Torah sentences. I don't know if everyone got the handout, that where the Torah tells us, whatever the Sanhedrin says, you follow. Whether you think it's right or wrong, that's what they came to a conclusion. That is what Hashem's will is. So that's the authority that they have. So they begin with, they set it up in certain situations. We don't make our own leniencies, but rather it was all put into certain circumstances. So that would be a normal way, something that is lasting, person does it themselves, and it's something that is needed. So this would make it a Torah prohibition. The others, it would be rabbinic, unless the Rabbanan, the Sanhedrin to begin with, said that it's only under certain circumstances. Okay, so that takes care of our handout. We will, I would suggest that you have in this book, you also have the preparations for Shabbos, cleaning up the house, doing laundry before Shabbos, doing shopping, wearing special clothes, not to eat a big meal right before Shabbos, to leave your appetite, to leave the food on the. These are all things that are in the chapters that are before that we come to the Lamites Malachas, the lighting of candles, the Kiddush, the meal. This, we're leaving that for other classes. We're going to go to the Lamites Malachas, the 39 categories of works. So this is on page 79. In the last handout, we had the 39 categories. So the first 11 are a part of making the dye. And the dye was made, some of the dye was made out of plants. So the first 11 steps, which would include, this is on those who have this, page 1. So, so it would be, number 1 would be zriya, to put a seed or plant in the ground so it can grow. And then number 2 would be preparing the ground for planting, which would be covering the seed. Then after it grows, katsima, removing something from its place of growth. Then it would be gathered and put into bundles. Then it would then be threshed, taking the seed out of the shell. And then as the shells and the seeds are all mixed together, and then you have zriya, number 6, which is throwing it up into the air and have the wind carry away the shell. Then it is lands back on the ground, and then comes reva or borer, which is selecting, removing the stones and earth that is mixed with the grain. Then we have grinding it, making it into small tiny parts. Then it's sifting, removing all impurities. Then it is ready now to make dye. The dye was made into cakes of dye. So the Mishnah speaks about making actually bread. So after you prepared the flour, it's now clean flour, it's been sifted, then you add water to the flour and you make it into a dough. In this case, they took the particles of the dye, which were the plants now, it was made into a powder, and then they mixed it with a liquid and they made it into cakes. Or the same thing would be taking the flour, mixing it with water and making it into a dough. And after it was made into a dough, it was then ready to be baked. For if it's a bread, it's baked. If it's the dye, they would cook up boiling water, put the dye inside, it would dissolve, and now it would all become a dye. The next place would be to put the wool inside and stir it until the wool absorbed the color. So on page 79 in our book, 79, we have planting. So the Jewish people came to Har Sinai, came to Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is a desert. So how were they able to plant the different herbs to get the color? So coming to Mount Sinai, Hashem made a miracle. Everything started to grow. There were flowers and grass. It was a beautiful location when the Jewish people came there. And Hashem made a point of also bringing flowers there. So it would be beautiful, and therefore we have, the Medrash tells us, that the flowers were created to enhance and give us pleasure, and also to be able to take it and adorn our tables for Shabbos and Yom Tov. So bringing in to the house flowers for Shabbos and Yom Tov is enhancing the Shabbos and Yom Tov table or the atmosphere, and this becomes a part for which they fulfill their purpose. Also gives an opportunity to make brachos when the flowers are scented, when we smell them, make a blessing before we smell these wonderful natural fragrances. So there was now the opportunity, because everything was flourishing and growing, we were able to plant the herbs that were needed for the dye. So the malacha is, number one, page 79, is putting seeds in the ground. That's called sowing, S-O-W. And that would also include planting trees, not only seeds that were starting from the very beginning, but what happens if you have already a small tree, a sapling, putting that into the ground, even though it's not starting it, but you're continuing the growth from wherever it was taken from and now put into the ground, that would also be in this category of planting. Same thing would also be something that's called grafting. Grafting is if you have a tree that is not producing so many fruits, but it's still growing well. So you take a branch from another tree that is a healthy tree that is producing a lot of fruits. You make a cut into the branch of the existing tree. You insert the new branch into this old tree. You fasten it together, and now when the new branch starts to grow from the tree, it's going to produce now new fruit.
That works?
That's called grafting.
That works?
Yes, it works. People do that. You have different species that you want to connect. So this is something that's grafting. It's something that's done in the orchards. It's a natural thing. It's not something that was done back then, but this is something that's actually in progress. So that's called grafting, inserting the branch of one tree into the trunk of another. So it tells us that planting is not only in the earth, but anything that is going to promote the growth, that would be included. Then you have layering. Layering is another thing that they do, and that would be, sometimes they do that with grapevines. You take a grapevine, dig a hole, you take the vine as it is, it's a long vine, and put part of it into the hole, the rest of it is going to go out. You cover up the hole, and what's going to happen is, since it is a vine, roots are going to come out from that part of the vine that is in the earth. And then, once the roots take place, which the farmer knows how long it takes, then what they will do is cut it off from the source. And now it's independent, and now you have a new grapevine. That's called layering. Bending a tree branch, inserting it in the ground, and it's going to take roots. So the idea is, anything that promotes growth, whether you're putting in the seed originally, you're putting it in the plant originally, or you're doing something that's going to make it grow, whether you're putting it into another branch, or you're putting it in the earth, even though you're not starting it now, but you are causing it, to get roots and to grow. Now, there are other ways of doing things. One way would be, did anyone grow an avocado seed? You know what an avocado is?
Yeah.
Okay. What people do is they take the avocado seed, they would put in toothpicks and take a jar of water or a vase and put it halfway in. And you leave it in the half is going to be in the water, half is going to be outside the water. What's going to happen is it's going to sprout roots. The roots are going to be in the water. And what you'll get, you're not going to get avocados, but you will get beautiful leaves. And people will do that indoor growing of avocado leaves. They're very nice, they're refreshing, they're nice. But again, you're not putting it in the earth. You're putting it into the water that's going to, which its purpose is to have the roots. You have something that's called hydroponics. Anyone familiar with hydroponics? Hydroponics is a chemical that you want to grow lettuce and you want it to be bug-free. So you grow them indoors. And you're not putting them into earth, you're putting them to this chemical. And that's called hydroponics, which means growing things in a liquid. And this is what they have greenhouses, that they actually, this is a major industry where they have bug-free lettuce. So they're able to control what is inside that greenhouse. So they don't have any insects or anything else. You get a very clean idea. The question would be, and this is not our class, but what bracha do you make? Do you make borei pri ha'adamah? You're eating now the lettuce. What bracha do you make? You make a borei pri ha'adamah or a shahako. That will leave for your class with Mrs. Nemni.
What's the answer?
I'm not answering now. Try to investigate. It's a very good question. Try to investigate. So the actual plant, which is the lettuce, is a hadama plant, but the way it was grown not that way. So we'll leave that up to find out. That'll be a good conversation when you have at the table. Find out this. Find out if anyone was thinking about, are they aware of this? So that's another way of growing things, which would be to promote growth. This all is Torah prohibitions. Even though you're doing it not in the earth, but you're doing it in the liquid, you're doing it in the water, you're doing it in the chemicals. All of this is a part of this malacha. Another thing is, did anyone sprout beans? Do you know what bean sprouts are?
Yeah.
Or did you ever, you have the bean sprouts. And did anyone grow, you have the lima beans, you start growing them also, and you have the flowers and things. So people who like to have indoor plants, these were some of the things that people would grow because they produce nice leaves. So how do you do that? You have to start it. So you started by putting it, the way it's actually done for many classes, it's a science project where the students in class grow their beans and then they'll take them home, put them they get these little flower pots. So you have to start it before it gets roots. You have to start it. So how do they start them? Take cotton, make it wet, or you take towel paper, make it wet, and you put the lima beans on the cotton or the wet towel papers, and you let it stay a day or two. Little roots will come out, and then you plant it, and you will get now started. But what you did was you wanted to produce the roots. So you're promoting growth. All of this is a Torah prohibition. Now, does anyone eat bean sprouts? You know what bean sprouts are? Alfalfa sprouts and all those things.
Are they the green ones?
The little one, they're little tiny seeds. The tiny seeds with little roots coming out. Alfalfa or the other.
I know it's not kosher because it's hard to clean.
Oh, that's a different. So it matters how it was grown to begin with. Was it grown outside? Was it grown inside? It matters how it's grown. So they used to have in Gush Katif, they used to go up Alei Katif, they used to have these romaine lettuce for Pesach. So people were very concerned about not having, you should not have any insects on them. So they used to grow it in a greenhouse in Gush Katif. And they used to grow it in the sand, in the ground, but it was all enclosed with netting. And there would be mashgichim checking if there's any insects, they would take out that whole thing. There would be screens. The person would wear special clothes going in from one enclosure to another. It was a very, very elaborate thing to make sure that no insects would be there. And it was a very, very big industry where you were able to have a Pesach. People would use the romaine lettuce, so it was bug-free. But I don't think they ever, made it. No other industry, they didn't do it anywhere else. So I don't know if it's that popular now. They tried doing it in Mexico, but I didn't, it's petered out. I don't know. But anyway, so there were the bean sprouts again. It would have to have hashgacha. If you're buying it, it would have to have a hechsher that it is insect-free. So starting the bean sprouts, promoting the growth, that's one issue. If you keep it in your refrigerator, it's not going to grow in your refrigerator. So it's there only for eating purposes and not for growing purposes. So that would be fine. Now, so here we have on page 80, we have now so all of this is now our initial malacha is promoting growth by sprouting the roots. So all of the examples that I gave you now, which would be putting a seed in the ground, putting the plant in the ground, putting it onto liquid, putting it into water, putting it into a branch, layering it to the ground. All of these are sprouting roots. That's it.
What is sprouting?
Sprouting means to grow out.
Okay.
Grow out roots. All of the examples that I gave you, what's going to happen is going to grow out roots. From there, it's going to continue to grow, because the same thing would also be putting into a flower pot that's on outside. That would be the same as putting it into the earth. All of this would go into that Torah prohibition, the same. Now, on page 80, we have now, once something is growing, to make it grow better would be a Torah prohibition. So there's an Av Malacha, and then there is the Toldot. There's the principle, and then there is the offspring. The principle would be making roots come out, putting it into a place of growth. The offspring would be to help it grow. So now we have on page 80, how do we help something grow? So number one would be watering it. So if you have a field that needs watering it on Shabbos is a Torah prohibition. The same would also be if something is growing and you want to help it grow by pulling out the weeds. Everyone knows what weeds are? These are wild grass that's taking away the nourishment from the plants that you want to grow. So you pull out all the other plants that are growing around it, which is called weeding, taking out weeds. Weeds means things that grow wild, and it's not something that you want. It should grow there. You have in a garden where you have grass, and sometimes you grow crabgrass, all these different things that grow there. You don't want them. You pull them out to help the grass grow better. Same thing is also with plants. There are wild plants growing. You pull them out, so not to take away the growth power from the earth. So that would also be a Torah prohibition. Now, to help it, number 3, fertilizing. Does everyone know what fertilizer is? Okay, so this again, putting fertilizer on a plant would be a Torah prohibition. It's helping the plants grow.
I have a question. Toladot, it's not the vehicle, but it's like whatever you can do out of the halacha.
So again, if
Tolada, it's not
all of this, all of these are all of these are Torah prohibitions, because helping something grow is a Toda, is an offspring of this Torah prohibition. This is not rabbinic. This is a Torah prohibition. We're not going to list it all. When we have 39 categories, when we say planting, we're not going to put in all another 39 of offsprings, because then you would have like, so these are but so the Mishnah, that would be the principal work of halacha, only lists 39. Then we have the Talmud that would develop it, tell us what is also included in this, because then you would have, the Mishnah was written to be very brief. It was meant to be studied and to memorize it, basically, and to have that. Once you say planting, then you say, what is planting? Oh, so then you who have studied now, you know all the things. You'll be able to give us 39 examples of what is it, what would also be included in the Torah prohibition, in addition to the rabbinic. But as far as the Torah prohibition, so it would be also, you also have number 4 is smoking. So they would make a smoke under a tree. If there are any worms, you want it to be worm-free. You don't want to plant. You don't want to grow apples that when you bite into the apple, there is a half a worm. You don't want that. So therefore, you're trying to get rid of it. But it's something that's called pesticides. But many farmers stop using pesticide because they are poisonous. So some places do use it, don't use it. You have to wash the fruits and vegetables to get rid of whatever was done. But in this case, smoking it is not anything that is harmful to the fruit, but it does get rid of the worms.
Smoking, as in smoking as cigarettes.
So smoking over here means making a fire and having the smoke come up. They would make it such a way that it would be, whatever material they would put in the fire would be such that would cause a lot of smoke. The smoke would be the one that would reach up to the branches where the fruits are, and any insects that are there would be killed from the smoke. So that would be 2 malachas. If you made it before Shabbos, so then if you started smoking it before Shabbos, so that's before Shabbos. But doing it on Shabbos, number 1 would be making the fire. Number 2 would be, where did you make this fire? You made it also under the tree. So in that case, there are 2 prohibitions that was done. One is making the fire. The other one is helping the fruit grow.
Sorry, so would you be allowed to leave it?
Oh, but anything that you do before Shabbos, you're allowed to do if, from a Torah perspective, yes. It would also make a difference rabbinically if they are concerned that you might do something on Shabbos as well. So then it would be dependent on the situation. So let me give you like some examples. One thing would be we light Shabbos candles. Lighting a candle on Shabbos is forbidden. We light it before Shabbos, it's going to burn into Shabbos, but you lit it before Shabbos. Another example is that we also have the foods that are kept hot. We put them on before Shabbos. In some situations, putting them on Shabbos would be a Torah prohibition of cooking. We're going to be learning about that. What you could warm up, what you can't warm up, that's its own subject. So then we are, another example would be that you're allowed to open the water in a field before Shabbos, and the water is going to run all Shabbos, and it's going to water your garden because this was done before Shabbos. Again, it would make a difference. What is Maris Ayin? That's a separate thing. What will people think? Do people think that you are watering your garden on Shabbos? We have now the automatic sprinkler system. Is that something that's common or not? So technically, if it's said before, it's not a Torah prohibition. The only concern would be Maris Ayin. What will people think that you are watering your garden on Shabbos? So that, again, Will depend on the area. If everyone has water sprinklers, not should you even open on Shabbos so that everybody who's walking by will get wet. That's another issue. But again, it's not recommended. But technically, there is no Torah prohibition because you started this on Friday. Then tarring is also to keep worms away. They put tar, doing that on Shabbos on the tree. Putting tar has a terrible smell. So this is also a Torah prohibition, helping the plants grow, removing stones, soaking seeds that we spoke about, that in order that they should take root and sprout. Now, we have as follows. There are two, there's a flower pot, and something is growing in the flower pot. Now, when it has a hole on the bottom, and it is on the earth, it is considered like you planted it, like it's growing from the earth now. The fact that it has a hole, it's getting its nourishment also from the earth, even though the roots are not going into the hole and into the ground, but the fact that they are in the flower pot, but the flower pot has a hole and it's on the ground, so halachically it's considered that it is growing from the ground. Taking the flower, so first of all, the Rabbanan were concerned about flower pots, and it is muktzah. Muktzah means we cannot handle it. Everyone's familiar with the term muktzah? Okay, so you cannot handle muktzah. So number one, you can't really move the flower pots, whether with a hole, without a hole, in your house, outside, anything you can do. But what happens if someone did do it? Was a transgression done? So halachically, if it is on a place where there is no nourishment from the earth, it's on a shelf, it's on the cement, so it's not getting nourishment from the earth. Someone on Shabbos, first of all, transgressed muktzah, took it from the cement, took it from the shelf, took it from a table, and put it onto the earth, and it has a hole. It is considered as if you now planted this flower pot on Shabbos, and a Torah prohibition was done. I'm just doing that for illustration, but so we can understand. The same thing would also be taking it from the flower pot with a hole, and it's on the earth, taking it from there, again, it's muktzah, you're not allowed to do that. But someone would pick it up and put it on the shelf or cement. It's considered as if you picked it from the earth, because it's no longer getting the nourishment from the earth, now it's been picked. So it works both ways, putting a flower pot with a hole on the earth from a place where there is no earth, that is planting, picking it up and taking it away from there, that is removing it from its place of growth. Okay. Here we have the okay. Now
Is muktzah rabbinic?
muktzah is rabbinic.
Okay.
It goes back to all the way back to the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, where things that had no use at all, did not have the status of a keli, of a vessel, that could not be handled. So rocks, branches, things of that sort were always muktzah. There were other muktzahs that were added in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash. It became more strict. It went into stages of how strict it was till it became very, very strict. That it came to a point, since people were not keeping Shabbos, when they came back to the Eretz Yisrael, people who were living there sort of were out of touch. Shabbos was like a regular day, doing business and everything else. So they made, but they were very simple people who were not doing it deliberately because they knew the halachas and they're just deliberately not trying to keep Shabbos. They were ignorant. So Ezra made very, very strict laws that the only thing you can handle on Shabbos was clothes, food, and a utensil when you're ready to eat it. For no purpose, you cannot move your dishes or your spoons and knives and forks. You have to only take it when you're ready to eat, and that's it. So you were very, very restricted what you could and can't move. So you said can't move anything on Shabbos, Until Shabbos is Shabbos, you're restricted. So then he saw that people started becoming accustomed to Shabbos. They started removing some of these stringencies. And it became that things that are not spoons and forks and dishes and cutlery and all these things, that you could move them, you could put them away. You're not restricted in what you're going to in handling them. But other things are restricted. Things that are tools, then you're restricted. Technically, you could take a tool, unless it's a specialized tool that you would not use other for this purpose. If you have a doctor who has a scalpel, that's a knife that you use for operations. He's not going to cut a salami with a scalpel. It's a specialized tool, so that's mukta. But what happens if you do have you have a hammer and you want to keep the window from falling down? So it is a tool. It's called a keli. It's called a vessel, and you're using it for a permissible purpose. So you're going to take the hammer, put it under the window to keep it up so it won't fall down. So that would be permissible again. So even though we are for without any purpose at all, you cannot move the hammer. But when you want to use it for a permissible thing, you are permitted to handle it. Same thing would be also, let's say we have a screwdriver. Screwdriver is a tool, you can't do it. What happens if your door handle fell out? So we're going to learn that you can't put it back, because usually you put it back. On Shabbos you can't put it back because usually you put the screws in.
What if you can't get out of the room?
So that's why I'm telling you to take a screwdriver.
Okay.
And you can use that to turn. There's a square inside that the door handle fits in that you're able to do it. Oh, you don't. So you can take a knife. You can take a knife. You can take that back of a spoon. A small spoon also fits in for practice.
Or ask Salmanje.
So, but you could. There are different things that are permissible that you're able to get into that door. Again, it would be halachically what happens if there is a child who locked himself in, doesn't know locked the key. You don't have the key. It's only a one-way key, only from the inside. The kid cannot get out. The kid is in terror. What do? It's Shabbos. What do you do?
Well, the kid is in danger, so.
What do you do? There we go. You break the door down. Yes, you do. You break the door down. You want to get the kid out. So I'm saying Shabbos again was told that you're doing it in a destructive way again. A malacha is constructive. If you do it destructive, it's rabbinic. Rabbanan said if there's a kid behind the door, the kid is in terror, or even an adult, the elderly person gets nervous, whatever it may be, person is in a way of that is terrified, then whatever it takes, you can even take the door handle and put it back in and turn it. So in that case, or you have to break the door down, you break the door down. So it was put into the laws that were put in was not made to make people miserable. It's made for Shabbos, and then they also put in situations where it does apply, where it doesn't apply, and it's very it's meant to the person should be able to keep the Shabbos and also to be safe and all of these things. So I would suggest that you read ahead. So in class, right now we're going very slowly because I'm doing everything. But usually, I would like to do is I'd like you to read a chapter ahead, and I will go over points, answer your questions, and try to keep it that way. That the chapters are not long. There are a lot of details. For those who have learned Shabbos before, this will be a review. For those who are learning it for the first time, try to remember the details as well. We will go over I will try to get more of making it a general and try to use these examples that are here as an example, but not to go through every paragraph as we do.
Well, would you like to just this one?
So finish this one and do the next one as well. We're going to. This is not going to take a full. It's not going to take a full lesson. It's going to be. We're going to basically finish this and do the next one as well. So it's 2 chapters: planting and plowing.
Sorry, I want to go back to the door handle. It's just what happened to me.
Yes.
Back home, the door handle always falls off. But what if you don't have a knife or anything in that room that you
Could ask someone, if someone's on the other side, could they do something? Open the window and scream help, you know? Could someone, is there anyone in the house, or are you the only one there?
I mean, sometimes,
Huh? Wait
Or
till
you
some-
should-
you wait till someone comes.
Okay.
Tighten all the door handles before
I'll
Shabbos.
keep a knife in my room then.
Okay. But you have to try it out to see, you know, if it fits the, you
Yeah,
have to see that you do one that fits.
And does the doorhandle becomes mukse? Or
After it falls down, then it's, if it's still in your hand, you can put it down wherever you want. If you pull, as long as, when it starts over and it's in your hand, you put it down wherever you wish, you don't have to.
But if it falls, it's not well.
Okay, so let me get your names again. Petra is, Hannah, and Shalamis, right? Goldwasser, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Shalamis, and Lee, okay. So we're missing, let's see, Yellow, C, Allison. Then we have, Hart. Okay, Gemara Simateva, Shantera Misuka. How was your Rosh Hashanah experience? Yes. First, being in 7-7, being, you know, here in Crown Heights, it's a different experience, I'm sure. Yeah. Were you prepared for this?
No, not at all.
no, it wasn't so bad.
So, Sukkot is just a beautiful experience. You did something that you don't find anywhere else. Especially most inspiring is Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. We're
Yeah.
on Kingston Avenue. You ever there?
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, Kingston Avenue. It's all night dancing. You sort of get caught up in the atmosphere. So you have the spectators on the women's side that are there until 6 o'clock in the morning. There has to be something that keeps them there, or else they wouldn't be there. I'm just saying it ends at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's when they open up the street. So until there, the place is still packed. It starts getting really joyous from about 2-3 o'clock. Is when it starts really, things are really happening. In the beginning, they have programs, they have singers, they have for children
When does
programs.
it start?
No, it starts at 9 o'clock. So
9?
9, goes from 9 to 6. So they have, beforehand, I think they have a children's program. So they have the children who are there, and they have singers, and stories and things of that sort. But it just you have a feel of this was what's done in the Beis Hamikdash every night. It says that they didn't sleep. They were all night celebrating. In the daytime, they were ready for the Kabbalah and everything else. So how did they sleep? They say there were people first of all, it was very packed. So people would put their head on someone else's shoulder and fall asleep. But they didn't fall down because everyone was, so packed. And so they were able to, so they caught a little snooze. But it was enough joy for the entire year that whenever you want to look back and want to put yourself into a happy situation, you sort of go back and you're able to close your eyes and say to yourself, how did I feel during this time of joy? You're able to bring that joy into whatever situation that you are now and where you need that joy. Or if you want to have that Rosh Hashanah atmosphere or Yom Kippur atmosphere, it is there because it is meant. So this is, you absorb this atmosphere, and then the special times when you need it, you sort of have a wonderful Yom Kippur. Fast, meaningful, and
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, can I ask something else if you have time? Sorry? I'm regarding showering on the tub. I've heard different things. I heard you're allowed to do like body part by body part.
yes.
Even with warm water, but then I heard that you shouldn't do that all.
If you need it, you need it.
Okay. So that is allowed?
Yeah.
But it's better not to? Okay.
They have dry shampoo,
Yes.
dry
But the
shampoo.
dry shampoo is in your
They have
face.
also the deodorants that are, Shabbos permissible, which is spray, not using it for perfume, but rather take away odors. Person doesn't do the thing that are permissible.
Right.
So we'll have that as part of our, we'll get to it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day. There's one more bread in the barn,
Yes.
and then yes, we have like another bread.
Yes.
Yes?
I don't know if we have a whole pack.
That we have enough